أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In our last video, we mentioned the Islamic law regarding Khums and the capital. And we've understood that if we acquire the capital of our business using non-Mukhammas money, then we need to pay Khums on the capital. We've understood that this applies if a person is selling the capital. For example, as we said in the previous video, if someone has a computer store, he has computers, laptops, iPads, iPods, etc., and he's selling these computers, iPads, iPods, and laptops, ultimately he's selling the capital, yes, to make profit and possibly as well to expand his capital. So we understand the Islamic law regarding khums and the capital if we're selling the capital. But what if we're not selling it? What if we're using the capital but we're not selling it? Does the same law apply? In better terms, what is the law regarding khums and the necessary items or assets of a particular business? You see, when you have a business, usually you have certain items or assets that you are in need of in order to run the business. And in many cases, you don't sell these items or assets. For example, if someone is a tailor, he needs what? Needles, sewing machines, and the likes. He doesn't sell these items, but he needs them to run the business. So they're what? They're necessary items or assets of a business. The same applies to a person who has a laundry store. Suppose you have a laundry. If you have a laundry, you have washing machines, you have dryers, and the likes. You don't sell the washing machines, you don't sell the dryers, but you need them to run the business. So they are necessary items or assets of the business. Similarly, if someone is a butcher, he needs what? He needs knives, meat cleavers, blenders, for example, and or other items. He doesn't sell these items, but they're necessary. Necessary items to run the business. So what is the Islamic law regarding khums and these specific items, these necessary items or assets of a business? The law is the same law we mentioned in regards to the capital that we sell when we're doing business. Meaning, if you acquire these necessary items or assets using non-mukhammas money, then you have to pay the khums of these items or assets. Let's take the example of the person who has a laundry store. If he buys his washing machines and his dryers using non-Mukhammas money, suppose that the washing machines and the dryers cost him, let's say, $10,000. He buys the washing machines and the dryers using $10,000. Now, supposing that the value of these washing machines and dryers is $10,000, he's going to have to pay the khums of $10,000, which is $2,000. The same applies if he acquires the washing machines and the dryers without actually buying them. How would he do so? For example, a millionaire wants to do this person a favor and gives him a set of washing machines and dryers so he can work with those machines, so he can work with the washing machines and dryers, so he can open a laundry store. In this case, he also has to pay khums on these necessary items or assets. Here, another question comes to mind. After understanding this law, another question comes to mind. And that is, what happens if the value of these necessary items or assets drops as we're using them, as we are using them. So we come forth, we pay the khums of these necessary items or assets, and we use them to run the business. After a while, especially if we use these items excessively, and especially if the items are afflicted with some sort of damage, the value of the items or assets will drop. Let's go back to the laundry store. We use the washing machines and the dryers after paying their khums, and after a while, what happens? The value of the machines drops. It drops. Suppose the value was $10,000, it drops to what? To $9,000. The question is, are we allowed to compensate ourselves for the deficit we've experienced due to using or excessively using these necessary mukhammas items or assets? Can we compensate ourselves for that deficit or not? The answer is yes. You can compensate yourself. How? You can compensate yourself for that deficit using the profit that you acquire, or say, part of the profit you acquire through the business. These words might seem vague, so let us clarify them with an example. At the end of the day, the main point behind these videos is what? Simplifying Islamic jurisprudence. We said that, according to our example, the value of the washing machines and the dryers was $10,000. Excuse me. And the value dropped as we were using these machines for a while. The value dropped to $9,000. So we have a deficit of $1,000. Suppose that we acquire $16,000 throughout that year. We acquire a profit that equates $16,000. Before we pay the khums of $16,000, we're allowed to do what? We're allowed to deduct $1,000 from the $16,000, which will leave us with what? $15,000. Supposing that the $15,000 are our net profit, we'll have to pay the khums of that money, which equates $3,000. Now we've understood the law regarding the capital that isn't sold, the capital that you're not selling, rather you're using. You're using it to run the business. We've also understood the law regarding the drop of value, the law regarding what happens when the value of the necessary items or assets of a business drops. One more question comes to mind, and that is, what about the money that we're spending on the business? We've understood the Islamic law regarding khums in the capital and what happens when the value of the mukhammas items and assets drops. What about the money that we're spending on the business in order to run the business? For example, the money that we are giving to our employees. Sometimes you have 10, 20, or 100, or maybe thousands of employees in a particular business. You have to give them their salaries, so you're spending money on them. What about the money we're spending on, let's say, taxes? If you have a business, especially in the West, You're probably paying taxes for that business, federal or provincial taxes, etc. What about the money that we're spending on bills, such as a hydro bill, electricity bill, or a gas bill, all pertaining to what? To the business. Do we have to pay khums on that money or not? Sayyid al-Sistani Damadullah mentions in Minhaj al-Salihin, volume 1, in the chapter of khums, that this type of money, aside from the capital, of course, this type of money, aside from the capital, aside from the necessary items and assets of a business, this type of money is called مؤنة تحصيل الربح. مؤنة تحصيل الربح. And this money is exempted from khums. The money that you are using and spending in order to run the business, as you, for example, sustain your employees, or you pay your gas bill or electricity bill, or you pay your taxes, etc., that money is exempted from khums. Let us conclude with an example. Suppose that we have a business, and by the end of the year, we realize that we've spent $50,000 from our profit, from our non-mukhammas profit. We spent $50,000 on what? On paying the employees, paying bills, paying taxes, uh, all of these issues relate to what? Relate to the business. And we needed to make these payments to keep the business running. In this case, you don't have to pay khums on the $50,000. You do not have to pay khums on the $50,000 because they're what? They're part of مؤنة تحصيل الربح. والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على المصطفى محمد وآله الطاهرين.